United Methodist Church, and it speaks a lot about who I am and how I have come to be here. So I thought maybe we'd start a little bit with who I am. Who is this person that the bishop has appointed to serve you for the next year, and hopefully many from then on. There's a Jewish saying, my father was a wandering Aramean, which speaks of Abram, who was called to go out. And we'll talk more about Abram in a bit. But I have taken to say that my father was a wandering Tennessean, is really what it comes down to. Both of my parents were raised in the same small town in rural Tennessee, halfway between Nashville and Chattanooga. At the time when I was growing up, my grandparents still lived in that same small town. My dad's parents lived on the 16th hole. My mom's parents lived on the first hole of the same golf course. So in the winter, when the trees had shed their leaves, I could look out the back window from my dad's parents' house and see the front door of my mom's parents' house, which was awesome because that meant we did lots of family things all in short periods of time. My mom is a nurse by training and is currently working very hard to decorate and make sure that the house they are building in the Waco, Texas area is going to be perfect when they move in sometime in the middle of July. My dad is a manufacturing expert and in my lifetime has gone from being a production manager to a plant manager to working at the corporate headquarters for Continental Mills. They make the Crusties mixes, also Ghirardelli brownie mixes, go buy Crusties. So there you go. Those promotions that my dad went through came through changing positions and companies and what some would call climbing the corporate ladder. And so by the time I graduated from college, my parents and I, with my sister, had lived in seven different homes in 6 different states. I attended in my public school career 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, 1 junior high, and 2 high schools. And then went to college and actively decided to never transfer ever again. So I did 1 college for undergraduate and I did 1 seminary for my master's degree. I majored in deaf education. That would be teaching children who cannot hear rather than teaching people who are dead, because sometimes when I say deaf, people hear dead. That's a thing. I know, right? It's so good to have people in the room again. I'm just gonna name that. And so I worked in my bachelor's degree years with children with severe to profound hearing loss who had to use devices in order to hear anything. Most of the kids that I taught in those times, a bomb would be going off in the next room. They would feel it before they could hear it. That's how deaf they were, and without their devices. But all of them had hearing aids or they had cochlear implants. The kids at the school that I student taught at actually got fined, the older kids, if they were caught signing in school. Because the point was for them to hear and to use what hearing they had and to be able to communicate with a hearing world that doesn't know how to sign, because I talk with my hands. I know about yay much sign, but most people don't. Through a series of events, I came to understand that rather than teaching deaf children, that I was called into ministry, and so left college. I graduated from college and began seminary. And right after that, I went to seminary at Candler School of Theology, which is a part of Emory University in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia. Well, not anyway. It was a great time. I will say that Atlanta, that was the last time I lived in a large community. So moving into the Twin Cities, I can't say back to the Twin Cities, but moving into the Twin Cities is going to be a bit of a culture shock for me, because I went from seminary to Brainerd to Glenwood. We went down size-wise, and then we went to Wilmer, which was really exciting because it was huge. Right, huge. And now I get to live in the Twin Cities, and I'm very excited about that. What brought me to Minnesota is my husband, Jeff, who is serving now at Faith United Methodist Church in St. Anthony, not to be confused in my family with Faith United Methodist Church in West St. Paul. It's going to be exciting for us at home, figuring out what we're talking about. But so I moved to Minnesota because Jeff grew up here in the Twin Cities. He grew up in Falcon Heights, a mile from the state fairgrounds. He grew up going to Hamlin Church and working at the Hamlin Dining Hall. It's a big deal for our family. This year, when there is no state fair, will be the first time that Jeff has not worked at the dining hall since he was 13 years old. He has a long-standing tradition of being a part of the fair in that way. We have 2 children. Bryce just turned 8. Yes, Bryce just turned 8. He will be in 3rd grade in the fall, and Zoe will turn 6 in a few short weeks. And so we are full in our family. We are full of life and all of that. And so it is in the midst of all of this that I understand the call that Abram experienced by God to go to the place that I will show you, because this is a part of who we are as a family. It's a part of who I am, moving constantly. I have people who will ask me, well, where did you grow up? And when I was a kid and really snarky, my response was, and what age are you talking about? Because I was born in Tennessee, and then we moved to South Carolina, California, Texas, Missouri, Kentucky, Georgia, and then Minnesota. That is 8 states that I have lived in. At the point in time that I live in one house for 6 years straight, something that will be the first time in my lifetime that I will have done that. I have yet to live anywhere for more than 5.5 years in my life. In my pastoral career, I have served churches for exactly 5 years each. So go figure, someday I'm going to hit the magic 6 mark. I think I might throw a party when that happens. But let us turn our attention to Abram, because Abram had this experience as well. Abram was born, his father Terah was born in his native land of Ur. Wouldn't you like to be from Ur? Like, let's get real. Hi, I'm Terah, and I grew up in Ur. Anyway, Abram heard that and Terah was called out of that land, and then Abraham was called out of the land, and literally God said to him, Abram, you're going to do amazing and wonderful things. Go to the land that I'm going to show you. Really? Like when the bishop calls me, the bishop's like, Pastor Marianne, what I'd really like you to do is to go and to serve the people in West St. Paul. It's not just go to the land that I show you. I'm just going to show up, whatever. But this is amazing thing in a land and in a time before instant communication. I can't imagine what it would have been like for Abraham's family, right? Family, I'm going to go off to the land that God shows me. And they're like, but there's no post office, there's no internet, there's no texting. We'll never see you again. We will likely never hear from you again. And yet here's the thing, Abraham is the crux of God's vision for the rest of the world. Abraham is the crux for helping to reconnect the fallen world to God. God needs Abram to say yes, which is good because he does. And so God calls him with a promise and a blessing. Abram, if you will go to this land that I show you, I promise to you that you will be the father of a great nation. You have no kids right now, but you will be the father of a great nation. The sands on the earth will be smaller than the number of children you will have, and through you, I will bless all people. Well, I can go with that. Okay, God, I will go to that place. And so Abraham does. He packs up his family, which at this point in time is his wife and his nephew, and all of their livestock, because this is what all of their possessions are at this point in time, tent it all up, and off they go to the land that God shows them. It's an amazing thought. It's one of those things that I think is hard to fathom in today's world. But it's something we experience. We just experience it very differently. Today we begin a new journey, right? We begin a new journey together because not only does church look a little bit different, I'm just going to name that thing. You're not used to doing church on a computer screen in your whichever room you're in. But you're certainly not used to this face being the one standing in the pulpit. But I think that God is calling out to us through the promise of Abraham to say, Faith United Methodist Church, go to the place that I will show you, and through you, West St. Paul, the Twin Cities, Minnesota, the United States, the world will be blessed. This place that we are looks different. It looks different in how we do ministry. It looks different in how we experience the world. And again, I'm just excited to be worshiping with people in the same room with me. And I know that may be different for you, but I have been doing Zoom worship quite literally in an office by myself. And it's hard. It's hard to do and understand what it is to be church in a world where we can't touch each other, where we're worried about if we're breathing on each other, where we're not sure who each other is and how we're going to get to know each other, because you can see my face and when I turn my sermon off, will be able to see yours. But when we meet in person, it will be different. Because what you look like in a 2-inch box on my computer screen is not a whole of who you are, just like my little 2-inch box is not a whole of who I am. But I still think that today God is calling us and saying to us, Faith United Methodist Church in West St. Paul, go to the land that I will show you. Reach out and show the love that I know you have for each other and for the world in the ways that you can, with a mask on your face so that you help to avoid an infection and help to curtail the growth and the spread of COVID, in the ways that we reach out and show the love of God to all people, whether they look like us, act like us, talk like us, or not, in the ways that we reach out and just simply say that we are here in this place, whether at home or at church or at work or at the grocery store. We are in this place to show that love, to bless each other, to live out the promise that we will bless the world. So together, let us take the time to get to know each other. Let us share with one another. Let us laugh and cry and be in ministry, knowing that God is calling us out to a new place, in this place, if that makes any sense. That we may know that God's love reaches us today when things look different than they did a month ago, that when they look different than they did in February. February. Would have been nice, right? Very rarely do I say, man, I miss winter. I hate the snow. I'm just going to name that right now. But nevertheless, let us be that church. Let us be the church called out who say, yes, we will go to that place, God. We will reach out. We will connect. We will show each other love. And we will show that love to all people. Amen.
Is one of you guys gonna do joys and concerns?